Good morning, everybody. Fergus Dolan here from NALA. Delighted to have you here for our webinar this morning on reading in the everyday, helping families to find the space in the everyday to build reading skills. We're delighted to have our facilitator, Dr. Ann Devitt, she's Director of Research, School of Education at Trinity College Dublin, and she's Academic Director of Learnovate Educational Technology Centre. We also have my colleague Margaret Murray, who's helping with kind of organising and muting and all that kind of thing. So just a few things. Anne is, during the course of the webinar, Anne is going to throw out a few questions and a few options to you, the attendees, to give your inputs and give some answers. So when she asks you for your comments, we'd like you to comment, please, in the questions/chat box. So if you go down to near the bottom of your toolbar, you can see a box in grey called question/chat. And if you go over to the right of the words question/chat, there's a little small box with an arrow pointing upwards. If you click on that little box, it opens up your questions into the center of your screen, and you can type away your comments or your questions for Anne. So 2 or 3 times during the webinar, she'll ask, and then I'll come back on and I'll read out a general summary of what your feedback is. So over to you, Anne. All the best.
Okay, great. Thanks, Fergus. Okay, good morning, everybody, and thanks to Fergus and Margaret for getting everything organised this morning. I'm delighted to be here with you this morning, talking about reading, or I suppose more broadly, literacy in the everyday, and looking at ways to help families find space for building reading skills and building literacy skills. We talk a tiny bit about numeracy in here too, just in the everyday, what they're doing. So my name is Ann Devitt. I'm a lecturer in the School of Education in Trinity College. My main area is in language and literacy learning. As Fergus said, I'm the Director of Research there and Academic Director for Learnovate. So big focus on educational technology often in what I do. But I suppose most importantly for this talk, I'm Principal Investigator on a family digital literacy project that has been running for the last year or so in partnership with NALA, and it's funded by the Irish Research Council. So when the school closures hit back in March, we did some serious thinking about how we could support, I guess, the community at large around literacy development when a lot of families were at home during the pandemic. So certainly family digital literacy is the focus of the project, but we developed a number of resources and so on during the school closures to try and support families with literacy in the home. And colleagues also did some work with numeracy. So this webinar is drawing on some of those resources that we developed, and if any of you attended our Literacy on the Loose webinar back in June, some of this will be familiar. And we're also going to talk about, or I'm also going to talk about some of the findings from the research we carried out with parents during the shutdown. So just to kind of try and get a sense of, you know, where families are and how they were finding things during the school closures. And this is just, you know, the school closures were a really intensive moment of family learning, and so we can take a lot from that and learn a lot from that when we're just talking about family learning and family literacy generally. So I know you all are working with learners all the time, and I'd be really interested to hear about your experiences and get your feedback and your thoughts on the experiences and the research and the resources here. So please do use the chat questions area that Fergus just talked about, and hope to have some discussion later. Okay, so I suppose that, you know, why we're here at this webinar, and because you have all signed up to come to this webinar, you know, you'd be very familiar with this motivation, I suppose, for around family literacy, that parents are essentially the single biggest influence on a child's development in the early years. And this a huge part of this is development around literacy and the kind of supports that parents put in place, the kind of skills that are developed in the home, provide that really solid grounding for children as they move into school and on through school. And continuing into school, parents' interest in schoolwork and so on always has a really strong impact on students' all kinds of impacts for students, like their educational outcomes, the relationships with teachers and so on. So just that focus on learning within the family is hugely valuable. And I suppose during the school shutdowns, we saw, you know, some of the stresses and pressures that come about for parents when this huge privilege, but this huge was very much the onus was on parents to be the educator of their children, the lone educator of their children, and this brought a lot of pressures for parents. So you know, this is kind of the context for what we're doing here. And I suppose the first thing to talk about is, you know, what do we mean by literacy? And you're all literacy educators, so this will be very much talking to what you know, to your areas of expertise. And so literacy encompasses a really wide range of things, obviously relating to language. So it includes the capacity to read and understand and critically appreciate various different forms of communication. So that might be spoken language, it might be printed text, it might be digital media, broadcast media, and so on. And so literacy tends to be broadening out to encompass all of those things. And especially nowadays, the digital and the non-digital are kind of interpenetrating all the time. So we're not talking about digital skills and non-digital skills. Often we might be looking at the two together. And I suppose the critical thing here is that these abilities, these skills, these dispositions and so on, they are crucial to a person's ability to develop fully as an individual and to, you know, live a satisfying, rewarding life and to participate fully in our society and economy. So, you know, it has all kinds of huge impacts on individuals and on society where there are literacy learning has those impacts. And I suppose one thing to remember that it's much more, literacy is much more than just the skills, you know, just the decoding of words or the, you know, the writing of things. It's about reading the world and reading the word, as to quote Freire from back in the 80s. So it's that idea that it's not just about those skills, it's about what we do with them and how we critically engage with what we're reading, what we're viewing, and what we're looking to write. And so this image here and this slide is to do with primary education or early years education, even, you know, going from the kind of 3 to 8 age range. So when we're talking about family literacy and the kind of things that parents might be doing to support their children in the home with literacy and through that perhaps develop their own literacy skills, all of that is feeding then into what's going to happen in school. And so this lovely tree here, which this is from NEPS from 2016, this image, so you can see the trunk of the tree is language and the roots of the tree are what comes from the home. So the access to books, the developing oral language, any reading in the home that happens, all that motivation to learn and so on, growing through into the trunk of language, which is the kind of all those baseline, you know, literacy being a language-based activity. And then from that, we've a range of balanced literacy activities to develop literacy in the early years. So you have phonics, certainly, you have the constrained skills like phonics and so on, but then you've got the wider unconstrained skills like developing vocabulary, comprehension strategies, and so on. So this image, I suppose, just goes to demonstrate the richness of the view of literacy that's taken in primary school, which is where children in families are feeding into with the skills that they're bringing from home. So what I want just kind of, I suppose, to kick this off, I'm going to ask you to have a listen to a parent. And this is a snippet from Brenda Donahue's show on RTE called Like Family. And today at 10 this evening, there's a kind of a summary episode looking at the impact of COVID on families. And this parent, Becky Furlong, talks about her experiences of home learning. And it's just a really, really vivid reminder of what it felt like and the experiences of home learning for parents. But what I'd like you to do as you listen to this snippet is to think about what emotions or challenges you recognize from what she's talking about. So it might be from your own experience if you are home learning, and I know a lot of this chimes with me very much so with 3 primary children at home for the last 5 months. But so from your own experience, but also from the experience of your learners, what are the kind of emotions and challenges that you recognize? So I'm just going to start playing this here, and Fergus, if you can't hear it, please do let me know and we'll see what we can do. Okay, so I'll just start playing now.
Can we talk about homeschooling? How do you feel?
Oh God, panic just kicks in, because to be honest, I'm out of education. Finished school when I was 15, so that's giving out my age here, 22 years ago. Do you know, everything has changed. I had no idea where to even start with this. Even trying to understand what she was to do in her homework was stressful for me. I was reading, do this, do that, and I'm like, oh my God. So the child had spent 15 minutes explaining to me what she had to do so that I could help her actually do it. So tensions were getting very high then. And she was getting frustrated because she didn't know how to do it and because I couldn't help her. Do you know what I mean? And it just, it escalated into absolute World War III. I swear to God, it was terrible. We were arguing, we were screaming at each other. She was crying, absolutely shaking. She was so wound up and just emotionally distressed over it.
Did you feel the pressure to not let the side down?
Yeah.
For Molly's, did you feel that?
I felt the pressure myself as a parent, that if my child didn't have all her homework done like everyone else's children did, that I would be frowned upon, that I would be, I don't know, letting her down and letting myself down as a parent.
Did it affect the rest of the house, not just yourself?
Oh my
Molly?
God, of course, because me and her started to fight. And she stormed up into her room and she's howling, screaming, and I'm saying, "Well, you stop, the neighbours will think that I'm killing you in there." And she's crying, "You don't understand," and I'm crying, going, "Will you just listen to me?" And then Patchy and Bella then are there wanting my attention or wanting something, so they're getting not screamed at, but they're like, "Wait, wait, wait!" So the whole house just erupted like a volcano of madness. So that's a whole day has been destroyed all over homework.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask Fergus here if there's any thoughts in that question or chat area. I'll give you a second to type down what you thought there about what are the emotions coming up there and what are the challenges that you recognize from yourselves or your learners. So if you can type
in, but just give them a minute, they will. So what are the emotions or what are the thoughts that you recognize from that, or from your learners, from talking to your learners? Any thoughts there?
Yeah, and we'll just summarize them by the way, so don't worry about being too exposed. But the first time I heard this snippet, it took me back to those days in March and April and May where you'd nearly be losing your mind trying to get things organized. I might just go to maybe Fergus, just to what chimed with me.
One or two things then, or do you want to move on?
Well, yeah, no, if they're, yeah.
So they're starting to come in now. A lot of frustration. I get that from my students. The feeling of inadequacy, anger, frustration, feeling of inadequacy and failure, sense of chaos, lack of understanding of what exactly the kids do in school, feelings of inadequacy plus bad parent guilt, frustration. So that's the gist of it.
Yeah, very much so. So yeah, so that's exactly the kind of things that chimed with me. That lack of confidence, and actually it comes across really strongly in where Becky's talking. Like there's nearly a sense of shame there, where she's talking about how she's feeling about not being able to work with her child in this way, and just the stress then leading to conflict and just ultimately really damaging within the family, you know, damaging the relationships in the family. And we all know, you know, that the relationships for learning that's the bedrock for learning. You know, you have to build those relationships in order for the learning to happen. And so for that learning situation to actually damage relationships is, you know, it's awful. So okay, so this was Becky's first experience. So when during the end of May to June, in this project we did a survey with parents. So originally we designed the survey to be looking at family digital literacy practices and access to devices and so on. But with the COVID shutdowns, we expanded it just to look at homeschooling, and about 800 parents responded. And we asked for some support from NALA and from adult literacy organisers to help pilot and deploy this so that parents with unmet literacy learning needs would be supported to complete this, as well as kind of a broader reach out to parents nationally. And maybe some of you in the audience help pilot and deploy this with your learners. So many thanks for that. So just to say about, you know, a little bit of the findings here. So the blue side is the people who were more or less confident, felt pretty happy about supporting their child to learn. So that's a lot of the parents that responded. But down on the left-hand side in the red and the orange, we have those parents that really didn't, or pretty much didn't feel confident to help their children learn. So that's like 14% of this population. So we asked that the people who weren't feeling quite confident, why it is that they didn't, what was the difficulty there. So I'm going to ask you to do another little contribution into the text box, and I want you to say, what do you think was the most common reason that people said for why they didn't feel able to help their child learn. So A, you can type A if it's I don't have enough time, B, I don't know the curriculum, or C, we don't have what we need at home for this. So those are some of the options we gave the parents. So if you can just type in the question box A, B, or C, and we'll just get a sense of what you feel were the reasons why parents did not feel confident helping their children to learn.
So B seems to be the most common answer, some C and 1 or 2 A's.
Yeah, so you're bang on the money there. Yeah, great. So thanks everybody. That is exactly the finding. So of the, for people who weren't feeling confident helping their children to learn, the single biggest reason was that they didn't know the curriculum. After that, there was about not having time to learn, and kind of related to not knowing the curriculum, they didn't know what it was important for their child to learn at the time. So they didn't really know, and we heard Becky talking about that, just having to get explained to her what's going on with the homework. And then even in addition to that, not knowing what's really, what's the important bit here, what do we really have to work on, and maybe we can work on it in a different way. And so there's a whole range of reasons why people didn't feel confident, but those were the top ones. And only 10% talked about not having the resources at home. So it's quite, that's a fair number. But at the same time, you can see that the key messages here is that the, not having the confidence with the curriculum is really the biggest factor here. So now we're going to have a quick listen to Becky again, and we're going to look at what her solution was to this. And this is very much like the crux of what we're talking about today. And I'd like you to listen out there for any opportunities that you hear for literacy activity or numeracy activities. So just moments that someone could highlight literacy or numeracy opportunities in the kinds of things that Becky is talking about here. So I'll just... Oh, and please type them into the question and chat area. Any kind of general opportunities that you hear.
So Becky, there was a turning point. I said, Molly, close your books, put that homework away. I'm gonna speak to your teachers, and because she was crying, saying, "Oh, I can't not do it, Ma'am, I'll get in trouble." And I was like, "No, I'll deal with this."
Did you feel a big relief?
Oh my God, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
It was a whole different turning point. This horrible situation that we were in suddenly flipped. That it was exciting. I was going to get everything from my childhood, and I was going to teach them.
So life lessons with Becky Furlong.
Yeah.
Talk me through some of them I need to learn.
Right. So it started with growing a few vegetables, which has now turned into 1/4 of our garden is now a vegetable patch. Yeah, that was all recycled wood that someone gave me. We made the boxes, and we've started to watch videos of growing vegetables. My mum ordered me a beautiful vegetable book, so we have a go-to Bible now of vegetables, grown vegetables.
Okay, so grown vegetables.
Yeah. Then we decided that we needed masks. So buried in my shed was my sewing machine that was gone mouldy nearly. I got a good scrub, so we decided to make masks.
Like for your face?
Yeah, protective masks.
So you and Molly could do this
Yeah,
together?
yeah. We have.
We can't see this on the radio, so you're going to describe it.
So there are these homemade masks, so you can say away from the coronavirus when you're going around. We have all different patterns. This one, my one, has roses on it with polka dots and it's black.
And did you sew the elastic as well? So
Sometimes.
You don't need them?
Yeah, I done these ones, I think.
oh, they're gorgeous.
patches
You put
are-
with a guitar pattern.
Patrick has a guitar one.
The Rockstar one, isn't it? What did you learn to make the other day?
My nanny used to make this crumble for my mum and all, out of berries, and we decided to make it.
So we video called Nanny, and Nanny talked us through how to bake Nanny's crumble.
Yeah.
So she learned how to cook.
What do you think now that homeschooling is about?
I feel what's really important is to teach your kids what you know for life.
Okay, so that to me is just an amazing, wonderful example of home learning, and it's rich with lots of opportunities for learning of all kinds. And so I just wonder, Fergus, did anyone have anything that they put in the chat around the particular literacy or numeracy opportunities that they saw, that they heard in what Becky Furlong was talking about there?
Yeah, so thanks for your comments, and plenty of comments. So people have written using past experiences, real world relatable activities. Numeracy could be measuring height of child, etc. Connections, relationships, learning together.
Yeah.
Oracy through horticulture, incorporate literacy and numeracy.
Mhm.
Learning is fun, indirect learning. Interactions, communications. She took her strengths and interests to work on things that she was interested in and made her feel in control. Also, they seem to learn together. Growing vegetables, reading, measurement, numeracy, digital skills, watching videos, reading, shape, space. Then someone else written fractions, vocab associated with growing veg, colors, music, instruments, technology, video call, baking, measuring. Central to this is the shared aspect of learning and the cooperation. Veg growing equals numeracy opportunities, sewing equals technology and numeracy skills, pattern and design. Video calling equals technology skills, cooking equals literacy, numeracy and technology skills. Mum with the confidence to contact the teacher, to look up things on YouTube, to read the book, etc. Many parents don't have this, don't have the devices. Well, I keep going, or you gotta?
No, I think that's great. So we've got lots of things there, and so a number of people pointing out the specific examples, which was kind of what I had in mind. I've got a few of them afterwards, but actually most of you have just hit the absolute baseline. That is the really important thing here is that the learning was fun, but that the relationship underlying the learning was really strengthened by that experience. So that not only was that the mom Becky was getting her confident, she was in her comfort zone and she was confident in this area, and she was pulling in other resources, from family and so on, but that brought them closer. And so that thing about the relationship that most of you mentioned and focused on first is absolutely core to this, that going from a place of confidence and building on the relationships that are there. So yeah, some really, really nice ideas there. And even just a few things that I was just picking up on, which you mentioned as well, that the rich and meaningful learning opportunities that she talks about are so varied, and just specific literacy things that come up, and there are lots more. The vegetable books, as you mentioned, the vegetable seed packets, the recipes and the ingredients, and looking at, all of that involves reading. And then on the numeracy side, we've got the measurements and shape also, of course, for the beds, and dates to do with vegetable calendars and so on. And then cookery is all maths, really, ratios and multiplication and measurement and estimation and all of that. So lots of really meaningful learning opportunities. And if we think about it, school, a lot of formal schooling is about, teachers spend a lot of their planning time trying to make the learning meaningful for the students. Like, they're trying to find those meaningful learning opportunities where it's real world, and they're pulling, they're linking into what the children know and what they'd be doing. So in a maths class, people are going to be using recipes, but this is meaning in context, and it's just a wonderful learning opportunity, really, really rich. So this graph here is also from the survey that we did in June, and it was just, we asked about the kind of family learning activities that people were doing during school closures, and the range and the richness of the activities that people were doing. So, you know, helping with schoolwork was probably the top one that people were thinking about, you know, that this is the learning activity with my child, helping with schoolwork. But all kinds of other things, like lots of household activities, lots of reading with children and writing with children, and just doing something creative together, or using a digital device, or watching a program together, an educational program together, and so on. So, you know, what you've written about and what Becky talked about and what we have here, this is the place of confidence, if you like. This is what happens often in families, not always, and maybe not all of those activities, but starting from a place of confidence that a parent can build on is really, really important, to build on this and strengthen relationships in the family. So I'm just going to go to some ideas and resources for this. So so out of this project, we developed with a number of colleagues a video series called Literacy on the Loose, and another video series. They're just short little videos, like about 3 minutes each. The second one is about numeracy in the now, and they're basically to help parents find literacy and numeracy activities just in the things they do every day. So I'm going to try and share my my browser with you here, just to show where you can access all of these in one place. So if I go here, so the link is on the Family Digital Literacy project page, and that's on the TCD Education, School of Education research link. But if you Google Family Digital Literacy TCD, it should come up. So here down the bottom of this page, we have a link to the Literacy on the Loose resources, the Numeracy in the Now resources, and I'll talk to you a little bit about the home languages and home learning resources that are there. These link up, they're YouTube video series, essentially. So I'm going to bring you back now to the slideshow just for a sec. So I'm going to give you an example of one of these videos, and it's from sorry, just make sure I go to the next one. Yeah, it's from a colleague that I'm sure many of you will know in Clare Family Learning in Limerick and Clare ETB, Mary Flanagan. So a number of different people came together. We put together, I think, 7 videos in the end, and Mary selected to do the literacy on the television one, because probably the television and sitting down and watching television might be the last place that parents are thinking is a learning opportunity. So they're thinking that's, you know, this is like when people are switched off. It's the, you know, the hanging out time. But Mary does a lovely job here of highlighting all the opportunities for learning in just when families are sitting down to the television. So this is one example of these videos, but all of the videos kind of take slightly different focus. So there's one on using the mobile phone, one on using kind of devices like tablets and so on. There's one on being out in nature, and another one on the kitchen with loads of great ideas about literacy in the kitchen. So they're, by all means, you know, access them, and I hope they can be useful to you. But they're kind of set up for parents, so, you know, sharing them with your parents, the parents that you're working with, can be useful. So I'm going to and Fergus, you can let me know if the sound and everything works okay on this. So I'm just going to share this video now. And this is Mary Flanagan's literacy on the television.
Hello, my name is Mary Flanagan, and I work with Limerick and Clare Education and Training Board. This video is about literacy on the television. Parents are busy people and short on time these days. And when you get a chance, do sit down and watch TV together with your child, as children learn through interaction with others. We can watch TV with new learning eyes. Look for your child's number eyes. Get them to point out key numbers on doors, roads, or prices. Watch out for your child's letters eyes. Get them to show you what words and letters, signs, labels they are familiar with. And there are lots of letters on walls, shops, lorries, even clothes. Look out for your child's feelings eyes. Go over what happened today on TV. Was it sad, happy, cross, jealous? Lots of new emotional words can be brought in and then used as a family. What about the critical eyes? Remember to tell your child, this is acting, not the real world. Would you like this to happen in real life? Look and chat about advertisements. These want to sell you things, and get your child to check, is it real what they are showing, or is it make-believe? What's new eyes? Go over anything new your child found today. TV is wonderful for adding new vocabulary, and then you can bring these words into the family. National broadcasters like RTE and BBC are good. They offer programs showing our culture and real lives with a good balance for all children. They don't have a sales pitch. TV for children should show skills and ideas children will find useful and need to learn. If you aren't able to watch together just now, choose a program and ask your child to pick out, for example, a few new words in it, and when it's over, turn it off and have a chat about what was new. Maybe time the program before lunch so you can have a chat about it over food and find out what was the best bit. Extending the learning from TV by providing props, hang a towel over 2 chairs creates the cave or the ship or a house that was on the TV. Your child can have lots of fun imagining how the story continues at home. Finally, watch a show, chat about it, then build, draw, or act it out. TV is more fun if you watch it together. There is so much to learn. Enjoy it.
Okay, so I'll just bring us back to the PowerPoint there. So I'm sure many of you will know Mary and her expertise in the area of family learning, and that was her contribution on this literacy on the loose, and just a lovely piece there that highlights just normal everyday activity and the kind of opportunities that are in there. So I'm just going to take you back for a sec to this to the website. So I'll show you the literacy on the loose playlist is here. So there's literacy in nature, literacy on the television that we just saw, literacy on the mobile, which has some great things with predictive text, which is just such a wonderful resource for language and literacy learning, among other things. Literacy in the kitchen, literacy with 2 languages for bilingual or multilingual families, literacy on devices and tablets, and then literacy on the couch with shared reading. And there's a kind of a longer webinar with that. And also, which I forgot to bring up, Help My Kid Learn. Of course, we have the resource from NALA, the Help My Kid Learn website, which has for different age ranges activities that are going to support the child learning at home. So lots of lovely resources available. And what to do if the family doesn't use English in the home. So we have here the literacy on the loose videos, which are in English. Here we've got the numeracy in the now videos, which are also in English. So there's maths outside, maths in the kitchen, and so on. But here we have sorry, am I going a bit late, Fergus? I'm kind of drawing.
No, it's okay, and we've plenty of time.
Well, I'll be drawing to a close now in a second, just to look at these resources. So here we have a set of resources for learning at home. These are numeracy ones, these are literacy ones, and these are ones just around creativity. But we've provided them in Arabic, Polish, Portuguese, and Romanian. Each of the videos, so it's the same kind of baseline video, and it's also in English, so you'll know what's being said in it. But it emphasizes the kind of opportunities in the home for literacy and language learning, but for multilingual families, where they can be supporting their home languages and developing English skills. So emphasizing the fact that supporting literacy skills in the home language is so valuable for literacy skills in the language of school, so whether it be English or Irish. And I have a question here about whether it's okay to share these videos. Please, please, please do use them. Stick them on websites, share them out, email them around, do whatever you like with them. They're there for you to use, and they're very much a public resource. The more they're used, the happier we'll all be. Okay, so those are the some of the resources that we've developed. I'm just going to, oops, at the wrong screen here. I'll just bring us up to the slideshow. Hopefully this is the right one. So we had the literacy on the television, and these are the home languages, home learning, just to, you know, for where English isn't spoken at home. And just to close off here, I suppose some of the key points about finding literacy in the everyday for parents, and you as, you know, as experts, adult literacy tutors and so on, well used to developing relationships with your students, you'll know that the key thing here is to always start from where the people are at and find an area of comfort and interest for the parent and the child. So in those video examples, we've got cooking, we've got folklore, we've got singing, we've got gardening, we've got texting, you know, so a range of different ways. And also, you know, in computer games, there's so much potential there for literacy, even if you can share that and find that in the game. So just, you know, locating an area of interest and comfort in families, and then identifying small things to try. So even just picking out words, picking out letters. For people maybe who are happier in an oral tradition, looking at rhyme and looking at storytelling and that whole narrative, you know, how to construct a story, you know, all of those things are really valuable. And I guess the key point that you all identified from listening to Becky was do what works inside the family, because it's the relationships in the family that are going to support the learning all through the child's development, from, you know, from birth and right on through life, but certainly through their formal schooling, and prioritize these relationships. So that's where the, you know, the confidence building and the relationship building is so valuable. So those are some of the key, I suppose, takeaways from this. Now's any time for questions or discussions, please. I think you can certainly type in the question area, or if there's anything that you want to bring up that you want to query or anything, happy to talk.